When I saw the photo of all of them smiling, arm in arm on the cruise ship with the caption, "Only special people," I understood that I had been deceived in the cruelest way possible. But as I looked at that picture on the phone, my fingers trembling slightly, I was already mentally organizing drawers, sorting through documents, and recalling the number of the bank account she didn't even know I had. At 69 years old, I had learned that true strength doesn't come from shouting, but from the silence that precedes the storm. It all started 3 weeks earlier, when Chloe called me with that sickly sweet voice I knew so well. "Mom, I have a wonderful surprise for you," she said, and I could practically feel the fake smile through the phone. "How about a family weekend? It's been so long since we've spent time together, just the two of us." My heart warmed in that moment, because despite everything, I still believed my daughter truly loved me. "Of course, sweetie," I replied, already imagining late-night conversations, maybe cooking together like we used to when she was little. "When were you thinking?" I asked, as I started to plan what to pack, what to cook for her. "This coming weekend," she said quickly. "Alex is going to be busy with work, so it'll be just you and me like the old days." There was something in her tone that should have alerted me, but I was so hungry for genuine attention from my daughter that I ignored that little inner voice of warning. I hung up the phone feeling lighter than I had in months. Finally, Chloe had chosen me over her friends, her work, her social plans. Finally, I was the priority. What a fool I was to believe that after years of feeling like just another piece of furniture in her life, she had suddenly decided to value me. I spent the whole week preparing. I went to the hair salon and got my hair done. I bought a new blouse I knew she would like. I even practiced a few recipes I remembered she loved as a child. Carol, my friend from the walking group, had told me I looked radiant. "Happiness is written all over your face, Helen," she said as we had coffee after our morning routine in the park. "It's just that Chloe invited me to spend the weekend with her," I told her, unable to hide the excitement in my voice. "It's been so long since we've had time for just ourselves." Carol looked at me with that expression I knew so well, that mix of concern and affection she had when she wanted to say something but didn't dare. "Just be careful, Helen," she finally said, taking my hand across the table. "You know I love you like a sister. But Chloe—" She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "Chloe always seems to look for you when she needs something. This time is different," I insisted, although part of me knew Carol was right. She said she wanted to spend time with me, that she missed me. Now, remembering that conversation, I realized how desperate I sounded, how much I needed to believe that my daughter valued me. On Friday afternoon, I packed my small bag with care. I put in my favorite nightgown, a few comfortable blouses, my blood pressure medication, and of course, the ingredients to make her favorite lasagna. As I drove to her house, I felt butterflies in my stomach like a teenager going on a first date. It had been so long since I had felt truly wanted by someone. I arrived at her house at 6 in the evening, just as we had agreed. I rang the doorbell and waited, hearing the barking of her 2 dogs from inside. I waited a bit longer. I rang again. Finally, I heard the meows of the cats as well. Something wasn't right. I took out my cell phone and called Chloe. "Mom, you're there," she said, and her voice sounded strange, as if she were in motion. "Look, there's been a little change of plans. The door's unlocked. Just come on in." When I pushed the front door open, I was immediately greeted by Duke and Princess, her 2 golden retrievers, who jumped on me desperately. The 3 cats appeared right away, meowing as if they hadn't eaten in days. The house was dark, silent, and had that air of abandonment one feels when no one is home. "Chloe?" I called out, but there was no answer. I walked toward her bedroom, but it was empty. That's when I saw the yellow envelope on the kitchen table, with my name written in my daughter's hurried script. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Mom, we had to leave for an emergency. Please take good care of the doggies and the cats. There's food in the fridge for you and for them. We'll be back Sunday night. Love you, Chloe." I just stood there, reading and rereading that note, feeling something break inside my chest. It wasn't just disappointment. It was the slow, painful realization that, once again, I had been used. Once again, I had confused being needed with being loved. The animals were still around me, clearly hungry and in need of attention. Automatically, I started looking for their food, filling their water bowls, cleaning the litter boxes that had obviously been neglected for days. As I did, I felt a mixture of rage and sadness that I didn't know how to process. That's when I saw her iPad open on the sofa, with her Facebook active. And there it was. The picture that would change everything. Chloe, Alex, and their closest friends, all dressed elegantly, embracing on the deck of a spectacular cruise ship. All smiling, all happy, all looking as if they were having the time of their lives. And the caption, those words that would be seared into my memory forever. Only special people. In that moment, as I held the iPad with trembling hands, I understood that it hadn't been a last-minute change of plans. It had been planned from the beginning. I had never been invited for a family weekend. I had been invited to be the free pet sitter while they went off to have fun without me. But something interesting happened in that moment. Instead of crying, instead of calling her screaming, instead of throwing a tantrum like the Helen of years past would have done, I felt a strange calm wash over me. It was as if a part of me that had been dormant for years had finally awakened. I sat on her sofa, surrounded by her pets who had finally settled down after eating, and I began to think, to plan, to decide. Because if there was one thing I had learned in my 69 years of life, it was that dignity is not begged for. It is reclaimed. And I was ready to reclaim mine. On Saturday morning, I woke up on Chloe's sofa with Duke using my legs as a pillow and Princess curled up against my side. The cats had taken possession of the remaining armchairs, and for a moment, before I fully remembered where I was and why, I felt a strange peace. These animals had shown me more genuine affection in one night than my own daughter had in months. I got up slowly, careful not to wake my new companions, and walked to the kitchen. As I made coffee, my cell phone buzzed with a message from Carol. "How's your weekend with Chloe going? Hope you're having a good time, friend." I took a picture of the 5 animals following me like a procession to the kitchen and sent it to her with the message, "Here are my weekend companions." Carol replied immediately, "Where's Chloe?" And I, for the first time in a long time, decided to be completely honest. On a cruise with her friends. I'm taking care of her pets. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response came. "Helen, my love, when are you going to say, enough?" That question haunted me as I fed the animals and explored my daughter's house with new eyes. It was a beautiful, modern house, filled with all the comforts money could buy. Pictures of her and Alex were everywhere, trips to exotic places, elegant dinners, gatherings with friends, and I appeared in exactly 3 photos. Her college graduation, her wedding, and a family Christmas picture from 2 years ago where I had been placed in the corner, half cut off by the frame. I opened my WhatsApp and saw I had several messages from the walking group. One friend had sent pictures of her new grandson. Another shared a fish recipe she had tried, and Carol had sent a video of her yoga class in the park. It was my group, my real tribe, the women who genuinely cared about me and asked about my well-being. I decided to take a selfie with Duke and Princess, both looking at the camera with their tongues out, and sent it to the group with the message, "My new weekend buddies." The replies came immediately. One said, "How beautiful." Another, "Did you adopt puppies?" And Carol, who knew the situation, wrote, "Helen, call me when you can." But I didn't call. Instead, I showered, dressed with care, and decided to explore Chloe's neighborhood. I put leashes on the dogs, and we went for a walk. It was a prosperous neighborhood, full of large houses and perfect gardens, and as we walked, I realized something I had never noticed before. I didn't belong here. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because this wasn't my world. My world was my comfortable apartment, my friends from the walking group, my Friday hair salon routine, my computer classes at the community center. For years, I had tried to fit into Chloe's life, to be the mother she wanted her friends and husband to see. I had feigned interest in their conversations about investments and properties. I had smiled when she introduced me as my mom who lives alone, but she's fine. I had accepted being relegated to the kitchen during her family gatherings. I had lost pieces of myself, trying to be the version of a mother she could tolerate. I returned to the house to find the cats waiting for me at the door, as if they had been worried about my absence. As I gave them fresh water, my cell phone rang. It was Chloe. "Mom, how is everything?" she asked, and I could hear music in the background, laughter, the sound of people having fun. "The doggies aren't giving you any trouble, are they?" "Everything is fine," I replied with a calm that surprised me. "The animals are well cared for." "Oh, you're a doll," she said, and I could hear someone shout to her in the background. "Hey, Mom, I have to go. We're on a super fun excursion. I'll call you later, okay?" "Of course," I said, but she had already hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling a mixture of sadness and something else. Something it took me a moment to identify. Relief. Relief from not having to pretend I was okay. Relief from not having to act as if it didn't hurt. Relief from not having to be the perfect, understanding mother I had always tried to be. I opened my photo app and started looking back through months of pictures. There was my real life. Photos with Carol at the coffee shop, selfies after my aerobics classes, images of my small achievements like learning to use Instagram, pictures from my morning walks, my container garden on my apartment balcony. A simple life, but mine. A life where I was the protagonist, not a supporting actress. I made a decision that surprised me with its clarity. I took out my cell phone and looked for the number of Robert, my retired neighbor, who had always told me that if I ever needed anything, I shouldn't hesitate to ask. We had become friends during the months of the pandemic, when we were both alone and would run into each other at the grocery store or the pharmacy. He always asked about Chloe, and I always told him how busy she was, how successful, how proud I was. I had never told him the truth about how lonely I sometimes felt. "Robert," I said when he answered, "I know this is strange for me to call, but I need to ask you for a favor." "Of course, Helen," he replied immediately. "What do you need? Could you go to my apartment and bring me a few things? I'm looking after Chloe's pets, and I'm going to be staying longer than I thought." It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. "I need my medication, a few blouses, and my phone charger." "Sure thing," he said without asking questions. "Do you have a spare key?" "Yes, it's in the hiding spot I showed you, under the geranium pot." An hour later, Robert arrived with a small bag of my things. When I opened the door, he looked at me with that expression I already knew, the same one I had seen on Carol. Concern mixed with affection. "Helen," he said softly, "I don't know what's going on exactly, but if you need to talk or if you need anything at all, you just have to say the word." For the first time in a long time, I felt like someone truly saw me. Not as Chloe's mother, not as the available caregiver, not as the grandmother who could be useful when needed, but as Helen, as a person who deserved care and genuine concern. "Thank you, Robert," I said, and I felt tears in my eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of recognition, of gratitude for having people in my life who valued me for who I was. That night, as the animals slept around me, I sat in Chloe's kitchen with my tablet, browsing my social media. I saw photos of my friends, their families, their small daily joys. I saw Chloe's photos from the cruise, all carefully edited and filtered to show the perfection she had always sought. And for the first time, I didn't feel envy. I felt clarity. I was 69 years old. I was healthy. I had a small savings, a comfortable apartment, and friends who genuinely loved me. I had a life I had built with my own 2 hands after being widowed. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't glamorous. But it was mine. And the time had come to decide if I wanted to keep trying to fit into someone else's life, or if I wanted to honor the life I had created for myself. As I was thinking about this, my cell phone buzzed with a message from Carol. "Are you okay? Your silence worries me." And for the first time in a long time, I answered with complete honesty. "I'm fine. I'm thinking. I'm deciding what I want to do with the rest of my life." Her reply came immediately. "It's about time, my love. It's about time." On Sunday morning, I woke up with a determination I hadn't felt in years. The animals seemed to have adopted a routine with me, and as I prepared their breakfast, my cell phone rang. It was Chloe. And for the first time in a long time, I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Mom, good morning," she said in that cheerful voice she used when she wanted something. "How did you sleep? The doggies behaved last night?" "Good morning, Chloe," I replied, noticing how my voice sounded different, more controlled. "The animals are fine. They are all well cared for." "Oh, you're a doll," she said, and I could hear the sound of the ocean in the background. "Hey, Mom, I have something to tell you." It turns out Alex met some friends here on the cruise, and they invited us on an extra excursion that ends tomorrow night. Would you mind terribly staying one more day? I know it's a lot to ask, but you know how these opportunities are. There it was. The manipulation disguised as a favor, the emotional blackmail wrapped in fake affection, the pattern that had defined our relationship for years. But this time, something in me had changed. "Chloe," I said, my voice surprisingly calm, "before I answer that, I need to ask you a question. When exactly did you plan this cruise?" There was a pause. "What do you mean, Mom?" "It's a simple question. When did you buy the tickets for this cruise?" "Well, a few weeks ago, but it was a last-minute surprise, and before or after you invited me to spend the weekend with you?" The silence stretched on for so long I thought the call had been disconnected. Finally, Chloe spoke, and her voice had changed completely. "Mom, I don't know why you're asking me these questions. I thought you'd be happy to help me. You've always been so good to me." "Chloe," I interrupted, and I felt a strength in my voice I didn't recognize. "I saw the picture where you're all hugging with the caption that says, 'Only special people.' I saw when you posted it. I saw your friends' comments congratulating you on the trip you had been planning for weeks." The silence that followed was different. It was no longer the pause of someone inventing an excuse. It was the silence of someone who had been caught. "Mom, I can explain." "No," I said, and the word came out with more force than I expected. "You don't need to explain anything. You need to listen. I will take care of your animals until you return, because they are not to blame for any of this. But when you get back, you and I are going to have a very serious conversation." "I don't understand why you're so upset," Chloe said, and I could hear the frustration in her voice. "I'm asking you for a favor, just like I always do. I thought you liked helping me." "You know what, Chloe? You're right. You have always asked me for favors. I have always said yes, but this time is different, because this time you lied to me. You made me believe you wanted me with you, when in reality, you just needed me." "Oh, Mom, don't be so dramatic. It's just one more day." "It's not just one more day," I said, feeling decades of frustration building in my throat. "It's a pattern. It's the way you've treated me for years, as if I were your personal, on-call employee, not your mother." "My employee? Mom, how can you say that? I love you, you know that." "You love me?" I asked, and my voice broke slightly. "When was the last time you called just to ask how I was? When was the last time you invited me to something without needing me to watch something or someone? When was the last time you included me in something because you wanted my company, not my service?" There was no answer, because there wasn't one, and we both knew it. "Mom," she finally said, her voice smaller, "I didn't know you felt that way." "You didn't know?" I asked, and a bitter laugh escaped me. "Chloe, I'm your mother. I have been available to you every time you've needed me, for 69 years. I have canceled plans, changed schedules, put my own life aside every time you've snapped your fingers. And I did it because I love you. But you have never done the same for me." "That's not true," she protested, but her voice sounded defensive, not convincing. "Isn't it? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without me having to remind you? When was the last time you asked about my friends, my classes, my interests? Do you even know I'm taking computer classes? Do you know that Carol and I won a small dominoes tournament last month? Do you know that Robert has been teaching me how to use new apps on my phone?" Each question was like removing a bandage from a wound I had been ignoring for too long. And with each question, I realized how much of my life I had kept secret, not because I didn't want to share it, but because Chloe had never shown genuine interest. "Mom, I didn't know those things were important to you. Everything that has to do with me should be important to you," I said, feeling tears in my eyes. "I am your mother, Chloe. I am not your pet sitter. I am not your cleaning service. I am not your free caregiver. I am a person with feelings, with a life of my own, with dignity. I have never treated you like an employee," she said, but her voice sounded less certain. "Haven't you? Then tell me, when was the last time you paid me for looking after your animals? When was the last time you offered me money for cleaning your house when you come back from a trip? When was the last time you said thank you and actually meant it? The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the sound of the waves, of distant music, of her friends' laughter. Her perfect world, her perfect life, built on my unconditional availability. Mom, I think you're exaggerating. I have always loved and respected you. Respected? The word came out of me like a whip. Chloe, respect is what you show your friends when you invite them on a cruise. Respect is what you show Alex when you discuss plans with him before making decisions. Respect is what you haven't shown me in years. I don't know why you're being so cruel to me, she said, and I could hear she was starting to cry. I've always thought we had a good relationship. We had a convenient relationship, I said, feeling a painful but necessary clarity. Convenient for you. I gave, you took. I adapted, you demanded. I sacrificed, you took it for granted. So what do you want me to do? She asked, and there was a note of desperation in her voice I hadn't heard before. I want that when you return, we sit down like adults and talk about what our relationship is going to be from now on. Because as it is, it can't continue. Are you threatening me? She asked, and I could hear her sadness turning to anger. I am not threatening you, I said with a calm that surprised me. I am informing you. I am your mother, and I will always love you. But I am also Helen Miller, and Helen Miller deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, even by her own daughter. Mom, I think you're being very dramatic about something very small. Small? I asked, and I felt a new strength in my voice. Chloe, you tricked me into coming here. You lied to me about your plans. You used me as a free babysitter while you had fun with your friends. And when I confronted you, your first reaction wasn't to apologize, but to minimize my feelings. You think that's small? There was no immediate response. I could hear someone calling her in the background, probably for another fun cruise activity. Mom, I have to go, she said finally. We'll talk when I get back. Yes, I said, we will talk. But this time, you're going to listen. Really listen. I hung up the phone and stood there, in my daughter's kitchen, surrounded by her pets, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and liberation. I had said the words I had been holding back for years. I had set a boundary. I had defended my dignity. Duke came over and rested his head on my lap, as if he knew I needed comfort. I petted him gently and realized that these animals, in one weekend, had shown me more unconditional affection than my own daughter had in months. My cell phone buzzed with a message from Carol. How do you feel after talking to her? I had told her about the conversation I just had. Liberated, I replied, scared, but liberated. Do you want me to come keep you company? No, I wrote back. I need to be alone to think about what comes next. Because I knew something had changed forever. I had crossed a line. I had spoken truths that couldn't be taken back. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready for the consequences. On Monday morning, I woke up with a strange feeling in my chest, as if I had been holding my breath for years and had finally exhaled. The animals already knew my routine. Duke and Princess followed me to the kitchen. The cats sat in their favorite spots, and they all waited patiently as I prepared their breakfasts and my coffee. While checking my phone, I saw I had 3 messages from Chloe from the early morning. The first said, Mom, I've been thinking about our conversation. The second, I think we both said things we didn't mean. And the third, we can fix this when I get back, right? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I took my coffee and went out to Chloe's small backyard with Duke and Princess. It was a beautiful, perfectly manicured garden that cost a fortune to maintain. As the dogs explored, I sat in one of the elegant chairs and thought about something that had been bothering me since the previous day's conversation. Chloe had said she didn't know her actions hurt me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that wasn't true. I remembered all the times she had seen the pain in my eyes and chosen to ignore it. I remembered all the times she had changed the subject when I tried to talk about my feelings. I remembered all the times she had minimized my concerns by calling me dramatic or sensitive. My cell phone rang. It was Carol. Good morning, my love, she said. How did you wake up? Thinking, I replied. Carol, do you think Chloe really didn't know she was hurting me? Or do you think she just didn't care to know? There was a long pause. Carol was my most honest friend, but also the most careful with my feelings. Helen, she said finally, I think Chloe has always known exactly what she was doing. I think she gambled that you would never say anything, and she lost that bet. Her words hurt because they confirmed what I already knew deep down. Chloe wasn't an oblivious daughter who accidentally hurt her mother. She was an adult woman who had consciously chosen to use my unconditional love for her own convenience. Do you know what hurts the most? I said to Carol. It's not that she lied about the cruise. It's that when I confronted her, her first reaction wasn't to apologize, but to find ways to justify what she had done. And what are you going to do now? Carol asked me. I don't know, I admitted, but I know I can't keep pretending this is okay. After hanging up with Carol, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years, take care of myself. I searched on Google and found a beauty salon near Chloe's house. I called and got an appointment for 2 in the afternoon. Then I looked up a nice restaurant to have lunch by myself. If I was going to spend my last day here, I was going to spend it how I wanted. Before leaving, I took a picture of all the animals together on the sofa. They looked content, relaxed, as if they had been waiting years for someone to truly care for them. I uploaded the photo to my Instagram with the caption, "My weekend companions." Sometimes, true love comes from the most unexpected places. A comment appeared immediately from Chloe. Are you posting pictures from my house on your social media? For the first time, her controlling tone didn't intimidate me. I replied, they're pictures of animals I'm looking after. I don't see the problem. The problem is that it looks like you're on vacation at my house. Vacation? I wrote, feeling indignation rise in my throat. Chloe, I am cleaning up messes you left, feeding animals you abandoned, and keeping your house running while you are on an actual cruise. If that seems like a vacation to you, maybe you need to reconsider your definition of the word. There was no reply. At the hair salon, the stylist, a young woman named Carla, asked me what I wanted to do. I want to look how I feel, I told her. Free. She cut my hair shorter than I'd had it in years, gave me subtle highlights that brightened my face, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I hadn't seen in a long time. A woman who looked strong, determined, dignified. You look beautiful, Carla told me. Is there a special occasion? Yes, I said, smiling genuinely for the first time in days. I'm celebrating that I finally stood up for myself. At the restaurant, I ordered what I wanted without worrying about the price or if it was too much. I ordered wine with lunch, something I never did. I took selfies and sent them to my group of friends. The replies were immediate. You look radiant. That haircut is perfect on you. You can just tell you're happy. When I returned to Chloe's house that afternoon, I sat in her perfectly decorated living room and really saw it for the first time. Everything was beautiful, expensive, impeccable, but there was nothing personal, nothing that spoke of memory or love. The only family photos were perfectly staged, professional ones. There was no clutter, no real life, no warmth. My apartment, by comparison, was filled with little things that made me happy. Plants I had nurtured, photos with my friends, souvenirs from small trips, books I had read. My life might not have been Instagram perfect, but it was authentic. My cell phone rang. It was Chloe again. Mom, I saw your pictures on Instagram. You look different. I feel different, I told her honestly. Why did you go to the salon? With what money? The question surprised me with its audacity. Chloe, I am 69 years old. I have my own pension, my own savings, and my own money. I do not need your permission to go to the salon. I didn't mean it like that, she said quickly. It's just that you seem so, I don't know, different. I am different, I told her. I'm starting to remember who I am when I'm not trying to be the mother you want me to be. What is that supposed to mean? It means that for years, I've tried to make myself smaller to fit into your life. I've pretended my feelings don't matter, that my needs aren't valid, that my only purpose is to be available for you. But I can't do that anymore. Mom, I feel like you're punishing me for asking for help. I'm not punishing you for asking for help, I said, feeling a crystal clarity. I'm holding you accountable for lying to me, for using me, and for treating my pain as if it were dramatic and irrational. So what do you want from me? She asked, and I could hear real frustration in her voice. I want that when you come back tomorrow, you look me in the eye and acknowledge that what you did was wrong. I want you to apologize genuinely, not because you feel trapped, but because you understand that you hurt someone who loves you. And I want you to assure me that you will never lie to me or use me this way again. And if I do that, will everything go back to how it was before? No, I said, and the word came out with a force that surprised me. Nothing will go back to how it was before, because I am not going back to how I was before. The Helen who accepts anything just to keep the peace is gone. The Helen who puts your needs before her own dignity is gone. The new Helen has boundaries, and she's going to keep them. The silence that followed was long and uncomfortable. I don't know if I like this new version of you, she said finally, and her accidental honesty hit me like a punch. I know, I said sadly, and that's exactly the problem, Chloe. You loved the version of me that was convenient for you, but that version was slowly killing me. I didn't know you felt that way, she murmured. Yes, you did, I said softly but firmly. Deep in your heart, you always knew you were asking too much and giving too little in return. But it was easier to ignore it than to change. So, what happens now? She asked, and for the first time in the conversation, I heard real fear in her voice. Now, I said, looking out the window at the perfect garden where Duke and Princess were playing happily, we find out if you can actually love the real version of me, or if you could only love the version that never told you no. That night, as I prepared for my last night at Chloe's house, I realized I no longer felt like a guest in her home. I felt like someone who was just passing through, someone who had come to learn something important about herself, and was almost finished with the lesson. Tomorrow my daughter would return, and we would find out who we really were when we could no longer pretend the problem didn't exist. On Tuesday morning, I woke up knowing it was my last day in this house, and for the first time in years, I woke up with a plan. Not a plan to please someone else, but a plan to protect myself. While feeding the animals, I opened the Notes app on my phone and started writing. Not a dramatic letter, not a list of complaints, but something I needed to keep myself steady when Chloe returned with her tears and her promises. Helen Miller's boundaries, I wrote at the top. And then, methodically, I began to list everything I would no longer tolerate. No more lies disguised as invitations. No more caregiving jobs without advance notice. No more minimizing my feelings. No more taking my availability for granted. Each line I wrote felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Carol sent me a message. How are you feeling on your last day there? I took a picture of my list and sent it to her. Preparing for war, I wrote back. It's not war, my love, she replied immediately. It's diplomacy. You are setting the rules for your own territory. At 11 in the morning, my cell phone rang. It was Chloe. Mom, we've docked. We'll be home around 6. Is everything okay? Everything is okay, I replied, and it was true. For the first time in a long time, everything was exactly as it should be. Hey, Mom. Her voice changed, becoming softer, more manipulative. I've been thinking a lot about our conversation. You're right about some things, and I want us to talk when I get there. Perfect, I said. I've been thinking, too. Have you been upset this whole time? Because I don't want you to be upset with me. There it was again. Her concern wasn't about having hurt me, but about the consequences of having hurt me. It wasn't genuine guilt. It was discomfort with my reaction. I'm not upset, Chloe, I said with a calm that surprised me. I'm clear. What does that mean? It means that when you arrive, we are going to have an adult conversation about our relationship. And this time, you won't be able to change the subject, minimize my feelings, or make me feel guilty for speaking up. There was a pause. Mom, sometimes you talk as if I'm a bad daughter. You're not a bad daughter, I said honestly. You're a daughter who has made bad decisions about how to treat her mother. There's a difference. At 3 in the afternoon, I decided to do something I knew would annoy her, but that I needed to do for me. I invited Carol to come pick me up. Not because I couldn't face Chloe alone, but because I needed my daughter to see that I had people in my life who valued me. Are you sure? Carol asked when I called her. Completely sure, I said. I want Chloe to understand that I'm not isolated, that I don't depend solely on her for company and support. Carol arrived at 5:30, 30 minutes before Chloe was due. When I opened the door, all 5 animals greeted her as if she were family, which made Carol laugh. These animals have better judgment than some humans, she said, petting Duke. They've been better company than some humans, too, I replied. When we heard Chloe's car in the driveway, Carol took my hand. Remember, she said, you're not the one who needs to apologize here. Chloe came through the front door with Alex behind her, carrying suitcases. She looked tan, relaxed, beautiful. And when she saw me with Carol in her living room, her expression changed immediately. Hi, Mom, she said, leaning in to give me a kiss on the cheek. Hi, Carol. Hello, Chloe. Carol replied with that cool politeness she used when she didn't like someone but was too well-mannered to show it. I didn't know you had company, Chloe said, looking at Carol as if she were an intruder. Carol came to get me, I said simply. After we talk, I'm leaving with her. You're leaving? The surprise in her voice was genuine. I thought you'd stay for dinner, that we could talk calmly. We can talk now, I said, gesturing to the sofa. Alex, could you give us a few minutes? Alex, who had been trying to become invisible since he walked in, nodded quickly and disappeared toward the kitchen. Chloe sat across from me, and I could see in her eyes that she was trying to calculate how to handle the situation. Carol sat beside me, not as my lawyer, but as my silent support. Mom, Chloe began, I want you to know that I'm very sorry you felt bad this weekend. It wasn't my intention to hurt you. Chloe, I interrupted gently, that's not an apology. That's a statement that you regret the consequences of your actions, not the actions themselves. Her face tensed. What's the difference? The difference, I said, taking out my phone and reading from my notes, is that a real apology specifically acknowledges what you did wrong. You lied to me about this weekend. You used me as a free pet sitter while you had fun, and when I confronted you, you minimized my feelings. I did not. Let me finish, I said firmly. A real apology also includes a commitment not to repeat the behavior, and a real apology doesn't come with excuses or justifications. Chloe looked at me as if she were seeing a stranger. I don't know why you're being so hard on me. I'm not being hard on you, I said. I'm being honest with you. For the first time in years, I'm being completely honest about how I feel and what I need. And what is it that you need? She asked, and I could hear frustration in her voice. I need you to acknowledge that what you did was wrong. I need a genuine apology, and I need to know that you will never lie to me or use me this way again. And if I do that, will everything go back to normal? No, I said clearly. Because normal was you taking advantage of me and me allowing it. That normal is over. Chloe looked at Carol as if she could help her in some way. Carol simply looked back at her with a neutral expression. I don't understand why you're making this so complicated, Chloe said finally. It was just a misunderstanding. I stood up from the sofa. Chloe, if tricking your mother into watching your pets while you have fun is just a misunderstanding to you, then there's nothing more to talk about here. You're leaving? She asked, and for the first time I heard real panic in her voice. I'm leaving, I confirmed, and I'm not coming back until you're ready for an honest conversation about our relationship. Are you cutting me out of your life? She asked, standing up as well. No, I said, grabbing my bag. I'm giving you the chance to decide if you want a real relationship with me or if you just wanted an on-call employee who looked like your mother. I walked to the door with Carol by my side. At the last moment, I turned around. Chloe, I said, when you're ready to treat me with the respect you would give any other person in your life, call me. But not before. We left the house, leaving Chloe standing in her living room, surrounded by the animals that had been better company to me than she had in years. 2 weeks passed without a word from Chloe. 2 weeks in which I woke up every morning in my own apartment, had breakfast at my own pace, and dedicated myself to rediscovering who Helen Miller was when she wasn't constantly worried about pleasing her daughter. Carol came for coffee with me every morning, and during those morning coffees, she helped me process what had happened. Do you feel guilty? She asked one Friday as we watched people pass by the coffee shop window. Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember that all I did was ask her to treat me with basic respect, and the guilt goes away. During those 2 weeks, something interesting happened. My cell phone started ringing more often, but it wasn't Chloe. It was another friend, inviting me to lunch. It was a neighbor, sending me funny videos. It was Robert asking if I wanted to go to the farmer's market with him. It was as if by freeing myself from the constant drama with Chloe, I had created space for other relationships to flourish. On Friday night, I was watching a movie with Carol when my cell phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Grandma, Helen, it's Sophia. Can we talk?" Sophia was Chloe's daughter, my 23-year-old granddaughter who lived in another city for medical school. I hadn't heard from her in months. "Of course, my love," I replied immediately. "Do you want me to call you?" My cell phone rang 5 minutes later. "Grandma," Sophia said, and her voice sounded nervous. "My mom told me what happened 2 weeks ago." "Oh, she did?" I said carefully. "And what exactly did she tell you?" "She said you two had a terrible fight, that you were very upset with her, and that you haven't spoken to her since." "Did she tell you why I was upset with her?" There was a pause. "She said you got dramatic because she had to leave for an emergency and asked you to watch the animals." There it was. Even now, even after everything that had happened, Chloe was still rewriting history to make herself the victim. "Sophia," I said gently, "would you like to hear my side of what happened?" "Yes," she said immediately, "because I know my mom and I know you, and something about her story doesn't add up." I told Sophia everything. I told her about the fake invitation, the cruise photo, the conversation where I confronted Chloe, and her reaction. Sophia listened in silence, interrupting only to ask for clarification. "Grandma," she said when I finished, "I'm so sorry she did that to you. And I'm sorry she tried to make me believe that you were the one being irrational." "Thank you, my love," I said, feeling an enormous relief that at least one person in my family could see the situation clearly. "You know what bothers me the most?" Sophia continued. "It's that she does this all the time. She rewrites situations to make the other person look bad when she's the one who acted wrongly. Has she done that to you too?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "All the time," Sophia said with a sigh. "That's why I pulled away so much when I started college. I was tired of walking on eggshells, tired of everything always being my fault, tired of apologizing for things I hadn't done wrong." We talked for 2 hours. Sophia told me about her studies, about the boyfriend she had that Chloe had criticized without even meeting him, about her plans to specialize in pediatrics. She told me about her real life, not the edited version Chloe allowed her to share with me. "Grandma," she said before hanging up, "I'm glad you finally set boundaries with her. Someone needed to." "Aren't you worried our family will fall apart?" I asked. "Grandma, our family was already broken. It's just honest now." On Saturday morning, while watering my plants on the balcony, my cell phone rang. It was Chloe. "Mom," she said, and her voice sounded different, smaller. "Can we talk?" "Of course," I said, but not with the anxious eagerness of before. Calmly. "I spoke with Sophia last night," she said. "I did too," I replied. "She told me you told her your side of what happened." "I told her the truth of what happened," I corrected. There was a long pause. "Mom, I think you were right about some things." "About which things, specifically?" I asked. I had learned not to accept vague apologies. "About me lying about the cruise? About me using you to watch the animals? About me not treating you with respect?" "Yes," she admitted, "all of that. It was a start, but it wasn't enough." "And why do you think you did those things?" Because it was convenient," she finally admitted. "Because I knew you would say yes. Because I've been taking advantage of the fact that you love me." I felt tears in my eyes, but not of sadness, of relief. Finally, my daughter was being honest. "And how do you feel about that?" I asked. "I feel horrible," she said, and I could hear she was crying. "I feel like a bad daughter. I feel like I've been treating my own mother like an employee." "And what do you want to do about it?" I asked. "I want to truly apologize. I want to change the way I treat you. I want to really know you, not just need you." "Are you willing to do the work that requires?" I asked. "Are you willing to listen when I tell you something hurts, without getting defensive? Are you willing to include me in your life because you want my company, not because you need my help?" "Yes," she said immediately. "Yes, I want to try." "Chloe," I said gently, "what happened can't be undone. Trust was broken, and it will take time to rebuild it. But if you really want to try, I want to try too." "What do you need from me?" she asked. "I need that when you invite me to something. It's because you genuinely want me to be there. I need that when you ask for help, you ask honestly, not disguised as something else. And I need that when I tell you something hurts me, you listen without trying to justify why I shouldn't feel that way. I can do that, she said. I can. Can I take you to lunch on Sunday? Just to talk, just to spend time together. No hidden agenda. I would love that, I said, and I meant it. After hanging up, I stood on my balcony, looking at the city spread out before me. Carol was right. It hadn't been a war. It had been diplomacy. I had negotiated the terms of my own dignity, and for the first time in years, I had won. My cell phone buzzed with a message from Sophia. How did the conversation with Mom go? Promising, I replied. But only time will tell if she's really ready to change. I love you, Grandma, she wrote, and I'm proud of you. I love you too, sweetie, I replied, and I'm proud of the woman you've become. That night, as I got ready for bed, in my own apartment, surrounded by my own things, I realized I had reclaimed something I had lost without even noticing, my self-respect. Tomorrow I would have lunch with Chloe, but this time as Helen Miller, not as the mother desperate for approval that I had been for so many years. Sunday arrived with an anxiety I hadn't felt in years, but it was different. It wasn't the anxiety of someone afraid of disappointing others, but the anxiety of someone about to find out if a major change is real or just temporary. Chloe had chosen a new restaurant downtown, a place neither of us knew, which I found symbolic. Neutral territory for a conversation that would define whether we had a future as mother and daughter or if we just shared blood. I arrived 10 minutes before our agreed-upon time, something I always did, but this time it wasn't out of anxiety about being late. It was because I wanted a few minutes to center myself, to remember my boundaries, to emotionally prepare for whatever was to come. Chloe arrived exactly on time, which was already different. She was normally 15 to 30 minutes late, always with an elaborate excuse about traffic or some last-minute problem. This time, she simply arrived when she said she would. "Hi, Mom," she said, giving me a kiss on the cheek that felt genuine, not automatic. "Hello, Chloe," I replied, studying her face. She looked tired, as if she'd been losing sleep, but she also looked present, completely present in a way I hadn't seen in years. We sat down and spent the first few minutes in silence, looking over the menu. But it was a comfortable silence, not a tense one. Finally, Chloe put her menu aside and looked me directly in the eye. "Mom," she said, "I've been thinking a lot these past 2 weeks. About us, about our relationship, about the way I've treated you." "And what have you been thinking?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "I've been thinking that Sophia was right when she said I've been treating you like an employee instead of my mother. I've been thinking that Carol was right when she once told me I took your love for granted. And I've been thinking that you were right when you told me I had been confusing being needed with being loved." Each admission felt like a small miracle. Not because I didn't already know these things were true, but because Chloe was finally seeing them too. "Do you know when I realized you were completely right?" she asked me. "When?" "When I got back to my house after you left, and the animals kept looking for you. Duke stood by the front door for hours, waiting for you to come back. And I realized that in 3 days, you had given them more attention and affection than I had in months." I stayed quiet, letting her continue. "And then I thought about how many times I've done the exact same thing with you, expected you to be there when I needed you, without ever wondering what you needed from me." "And how do you feel about that realization?" I asked. "I feel ashamed," she said, and her eyes filled with tears. "I feel guilty, and I'm scared that it's too late to fix what I've broken." "Chloe," I said gently, "shame and guilt are important because they mean you recognize you did something wrong. But what matters now is what you do with those feelings." The waiter came to take our order, and after he left, Chloe continued. "I want to tell you something," she said. "After our fight, Alex said something that really bothered me at the time, but I've been thinking about it ever since." "What did he say?" "He said that if he treated his mother the way I treat you, he would feel like a monster. He said he had never met anyone as willing to help as you, and that he had never met anyone who took that generosity for granted as much as I did." Alex's words were harsh, but fair. "Do you know what hurt me the most about what you said 2 weeks ago?" Chloe asked me. "What?" "When you asked when was the last time I had called just to know how you were, because when I tried to remember, I realized I never have, not once in my life. This admission hurt more than I expected, not because it was a surprise, but because it confirmed something I had been feeling crazy for noticing. Mom, Chloe continued, I want to know you, really know you, not just as my mother, but as Helen. I want to know what you like to do on your days off. I want to know what your dreams are that have nothing to do with me. I want to know what makes you laugh, what worries you, what excites you. Why now? I asked her. Why not before? Chloe thought for a moment before answering. I think before, I couldn't see you as a whole person because I was too busy seeing you as my safety net. It was easier to keep you in that box of mom who is always available than to acknowledge that you were a complete woman with your own life and your own needs. And what changed? What changed was that, for the first time in my life, you told me no. You set a real boundary. And I realized that I had been taking advantage of someone who loved me too much to protect herself from me. Our food arrived, but neither of us touched our plates immediately. Chloe, I said, I appreciate everything you're saying, but I need you to understand that words are just the beginning. I need to see real changes in the way you treat me. I understand, she said immediately. You can tell me specifically what you need to see. I took out my cell phone and opened my notes. Over the past 2 weeks, I had been refining my list of boundaries. I need that when you invite me to something, you tell me exactly what you expect of me from the beginning. No surprises, no hidden agendas. Okay, I need that when you ask for help, you ask if I can and want to help, not just assume I'll say yes. Okay, I need you to respect it when I say I can't or don't want to do something without making me feel guilty for having boundaries. Okay, and I need you to invest in our relationship as much as I do. That you call sometimes, just to talk. That you remember dates that are important to me. That you include me in your life because you want me to be there, not because you need something. Chloe nodded at each point, but then she added something I didn't expect. Mom, she said, I also need something from you. What do you need? I need you to tell me when something bothers you, at the moment it bothers you, not to save it up until you explode. I need you to trust that I can handle the truth about your feelings. Her request surprised me, but it also made me feel hopeful. It meant she was really thinking about how to make our relationship work better for both of us. I can do that, I said, but you need to be prepared to hear things you might not want to hear. I'm prepared, she said, or at least, I'm willing to learn to be prepared. We finally started to eat, and for the first time in years, we shared a meal where we actually talked. Chloe asked me about my computer classes, about my friends, about my plans for the next year. And she listened. Really listened, without looking at her phone, without changing the subject to herself. When we finished eating, Chloe looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years. Mom, she said, I know this is going to take time. I know I can't undo years of treating you badly with one conversation, but I want you to know that I'm going to do the work. I'm going to change. I believe you, I said, and I was surprised to realize it was true. But I also need you to understand that if you don't follow through on what you're promising, I'm not going to stay quiet like before. I wouldn't expect you to, she said. The new Helen doesn't stay quiet, and I'm glad she doesn't. As we walked to our cars, Chloe gently took my arm. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Is there any chance you can forgive me? Chloe, I said, stopping to look at her directly. I have already forgiven you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean going back to how things were before. It means I'm willing to start over, with you, if you are truly willing to change. We hugged, and for the first time in a long time, the hug felt real. It felt like two adult women who loved and respected each other, not like a daughter patronizing her mother. I'll call you tomorrow, Chloe told me, just to see how you are. I'd like that, I said. As I drove home, I realized something fundamental had shifted. Not just in Chloe, but in me. I had learned that I could love my daughter without sacrificing my dignity. I had learned that I could set boundaries without losing love. I had learned that I deserved respect, even from my own family. But I also knew this was just the beginning. Promises are easy to make, real changes are hard to maintain. The real test would come in the following weeks and months, when we would see if Chloe could truly sustain this new version of our relationship. The next 3 weeks were a constant test of patience and hope. Chloe kept her promise to call me the day after our lunch, but the conversation was awkward, forced. It was obvious she was trying to be different, but didn't know exactly how. "How was your day, Mom?" she asked, and I could hear in her voice that she was reading from a mental list of appropriate questions. "Good," I replied. "I went to my aerobics class in the park, then had lunch with a friend." "Oh, that's nice," she said, and then there was a long silence. It was clear she didn't know what else to ask. "Chloe," I said gently, "you don't have to force the conversations. It's okay if it feels weird at first. It's just, I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "I don't know how to talk to you without needing something." Her honesty was painful, but appreciated. "You learn by practicing," I told her, "and by being patient with both of us." The second week, Chloe invited me to go shopping with her for a gift for Sophia, whose birthday was approaching. But when I arrived to meet her at the mall, I realized she had brought Alex and had planned several other errands for afterward. "Mom," she said when I mentioned I thought we were only buying the gift. "Since we're already here, I thought we could take advantage and—" "No," I said calmly. "You invited me specifically to buy a gift for Sophia. If you wanted me to help you with other things, you should have told me from the beginning." Alex looked at me with surprise, probably used to seeing me accept any change of plans without complaint. "So you're leaving?" Chloe asked, and I could hear confusion in her voice. "I'm leaving," I confirmed, "but I hope you enjoy the rest of your errands." That night, Chloe called me, frustrated. "Mom, I feel like nothing I do is right with you now." "Chloe," I said, "what you did today was the exact old pattern. You invited me under one pretense and then changed the rules without consulting me. Don't you see how that's exactly what you promised not to do again?" There was a long pause. "You're right," she said finally. "I did it automatically, without thinking." "That's exactly the problem," I told her. "You've been treating me a certain way for so long that it's automatic. Changing that is going to take conscious effort." "Can I try again?" she asked. "You can always try again," I said. "But I need you to really think before you act." The third week brought the real test. Sophia was coming to visit for her birthday, and Chloe wanted to host a family dinner. When she called to invite me, I was specific in my questions. "What do you need from me for this dinner?" I asked directly. "Just for you to come," she said. "I'm going to do the cooking." "Are you sure? You don't need me to bring anything, to help prepare something, to come early to help?" "No, Mom. I just want you to come and enjoy yourself." On the day of the dinner, I arrived exactly at the time we had agreed upon. Chloe had indeed cooked, the table was set, and when I walked in, she greeted me with a genuine smile. "Mom, I'm so glad you're here," she said. And for the first time in years, I felt that she was truly happy to see me, not because she needed something, but because she wanted me to be there. The dinner was beautiful. Chloe had prepared food she knew I liked, she had put on music she remembered from when she was little, and she had created a warm, family atmosphere. Sophia was radiant, telling us about her studies, her plans, her dreams. But halfway through dinner, Chloe got up and came back with a stack of printed photos. "Mom," she said, "I found these pictures when I was cleaning my room last week. They were photos from when she was a child. Pictures of us cooking together, of birthdays, of little trips we had taken. In every photo, I was smiling genuinely, completely present, clearly happy to be with my daughter." "I realized something when I saw these photos," Chloe continued. "I realized there was a time when I was your priority, not your obligation." Her words touched me deeply because they were exactly right. "And I realized," she went on, "that at some point, I stopped treating you like you were my priority, too." "When do you think that happened?" I asked gently. Chloe thought for a moment. "I think when I got married. I think I started to take for granted that you would always be there. So I stopped making an effort to make sure you wanted to be there. And then," Sophia added, "you started treating her like she was a service instead of a person." "Exactly," Chloe admitted, looking at me directly. "And I'm so sorry I did that. Do you know what the difference is between this apology and the last one?" I asked her. "What?" "This time you're not asking me to go back to how things were before. This time you're acknowledging that how things were before was wrong. Because it was wrong, Chloe said firmly. Completely wrong. After dinner, while Sophia and Alex washed the dishes, Chloe and I sat in her living room. But this time, I didn't sit on the sofa like a guest. I sat in the comfortable armchair, like someone who belonged there. Mom, Chloe said, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. Tell me, do you think I can really change? Or do you think this is just temporary until I forget and go back to my old habits? Her question was vulnerable and honest, and it deserved an honest answer. Chloe, I said, I believe you want to change, and I believe you've made real efforts these past few weeks. But I also believe that changing decades-long patterns is one of the hardest jobs there is. So you don't trust that I can do it. I trust that you can do it, I told her. But I'm also prepared for the fact that you will fail sometimes. The difference is that now, when you fail, I will tell you, and you will have to decide if you want to keep trying, or if you're going to give up. I'm not going to give up, she said with determination. I promise you. Don't make me promises, I said. Just keep doing the work, day by day. That night as I drove home, I realized I had spent an entire evening with my family without feeling used, without feeling invisible, without feeling like an employee. I had felt like Helen, like a mother, like a grandmother, like a respected and valued woman. It was just one night, but it was a beginning. When I got to my apartment, I found a text message from Chloe. Thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for giving me a chance to do better. I love you, I replied. I love you too, and I'm proud of the effort you're making. It was the truth. Despite everything that had happened, despite the pain and frustration, I was proud to see my daughter trying to become a better person. Not because she owed it to me, but because she owed it to herself. But I also knew that the real test was still to come. Because it's easy to change when the pain of conflict is still fresh. What's hard is to maintain the change when life returns to normal, when the old temptations and old habits start calling again. Only time would tell if the new Chloe was real, or if she was just a temporary version created out of the fear of losing me. 6 months later, I woke up on a Sunday morning with a feeling I hadn't had in years. Genuine anticipation for the day ahead. Not because I had to do something for someone else, but because I had chosen to do things that brought me joy. My morning routine had become sacred to me. Coffee on my balcony, checking messages from my group of friends, planning my day according to my own desires. That particular Sunday, I had plans to go to the market with Carol, then have lunch with Robert at a new restaurant, and in the afternoon, video call with Sophia, who wanted to show me her new apartment. My cell phone rang at 10 in the morning. It was Chloe, as it had been every Sunday for the past few months. Good morning, Mom, she said, and her voice sounded relaxed, natural. How did you sleep? Very well, my love, I replied, and it was completely true. And how about you? Good, too. Alex is working out, and I'm enjoying the quiet of the house. She paused for a moment. Mom, do you have plans for this afternoon? For a second, I felt that old, automatic alarm. But then I reminded myself that Chloe had consistently kept her promises for months. Yes, I said honestly. I'm going to video call with Sophia. Oh, okay. It's just that I found something I think you'll love, and I wanted to bring it to you. But if you're busy, I can bring it any other day. What did you find? I asked, curious. It's a small surprise. Something I saw that made me think of you. This was new. In all my years as Chloe's mother, she had never seen something random and thought of me. You know what? I said. Sophia and I had planned the call for 4. Would you like to come over around 5? You can stay for dinner if you want. Are you sure? I don't want to interrupt your day. Chloe, I said, smiling, I would love to see you. And it was true. At some point during these months, I had stopped seeing Chloe's visits as interruptions or obligations. I had started to see them for what they were always supposed to be. Time with my daughter because we both wanted to be together. That afternoon, after a wonderful video call with Sophia where she showed me every corner of her new place and told me about her hospital rotations, Chloe arrived promptly at 5 with a small bag in her hands. What did you bring? I asked as I made coffee for us both. Wait, she said, smiling mysteriously. She took a small frame out of the bag and handed it to me. It was a picture of the two of us, but it wasn't an old photo. It was a picture someone had taken of us during Sophia's birthday dinner months ago, when we were laughing at something Alex had said. In the photo, we were both completely present, completely happy, completely ourselves. When was this picture taken? I asked her. Sophia took it without us realizing, Chloe told me. She sent it to me last week, and when I saw it, I realized something. What did you realize? I realized it's the first picture I have of us, in years, where we both look truly happy. Not posing for the picture happy, but genuinely glad to be together. She was right. In the photo, you could see the genuine love, the mutual enjoyment, the ease we had slowly rebuilt. And I realized, Chloe continued, that I wanted to have more moments like that. Moments where we're together because we want to be together. Do you know what I like most about this picture? I asked her. What? That neither of us is pretending to be someone else. You're not pretending to be the perfect daughter, and I'm not pretending to be the mother who never says no. Exactly, Chloe said. It's us, the real versions. We sat in my living room, drinking coffee, and talking about our weeks. Chloe told me about a new project at work, about a movie she had seen, about a conversation she'd had with a friend. I told her about my classes, about a new recipe I had tried, about a book I was reading. It was a normal, everyday conversation, the kind that mothers and daughters have when they really know and enjoy each other. Mom, Chloe said after a while, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? I mean, in general, with your life, are you happy? The question surprised me with its simplicity and its depth. Yes, I said after thinking for a moment. I am happy. I feel complete. Complete how? Complete as Helen, I said. Not just as your mother, not just as Sophia's grandmother, but as a woman who has friends who love her, activities she enjoys, a life she has built for herself. And us? She asked. Are you happy with our relationship? I feel hopeful, I told her honestly. I feel like we're finally getting to know each other as the people we really are. I feel the same way, she said. It's weird, but I feel like I'm just now getting to know the real Helen, not the mom who does everything without complaining that I had created in my head. Do you like the real Helen? I asked. And I was surprised by my own vulnerability in asking the question. I love the real Helen, she said immediately. I like that you have strong opinions. I like that you tell me when you disagree with me. I like getting to know your friends and your interests. I like that you're a whole person, not just my mother. Her words filled me with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Do you know what I've learned these past months? I asked her. What? I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity for them. I've learned that setting boundaries doesn't mean loving less. And I've learned that I deserve to be treated with respect, even by the people I love most. And what have I learned? Chloe asked herself out loud. What have you learned? I've learned that having an available mother is not the same as having a real relationship with your mother. I've learned that respect is something you give, not something you demand. And I've learned that relationships require conscious effort, not just going through the motions. As I listened to her speak, I realized that we had both grown during these months. I had regained my sense of self-worth, and she had learned what it means to genuinely value another person. Mom, Chloe said before leaving that night, thank you. What are you thanking me for? For not giving up on me. For fighting for us, even when it was uncomfortable and difficult. Thank you, I told her, for doing the work to change, even when it was hard. After she left, I sat in my living room looking at the picture she had brought me. It was a simple photo, but it represented something extraordinary. Two women who had decided to truly love each other, not out of convenience, not out of obligation, but out of genuine choice. My cell phone buzzed with a message from Carol. How was Chloe's visit? Perfect, I replied. Natural, easy, real. I'm so happy for you, my love, she responded. You seem so happy lately. And it was true. I was happy, not with the forced happiness of someone who is pretending everything is fine, but with the quiet happiness of someone who has found her place in the world. That night, as I got ready for sleep, I thought about everything that had changed in less than a year. I had gone from being a mother who constantly sacrificed herself for scraps of attention to being a woman who had reclaimed her dignity and, in the process, had gained a genuine relationship with her daughter. It hadn't been easy. It had required courage to set boundaries, patience to maintain them, and faith to believe that real love could survive honesty. But it had been worth it, completely. I lay down in my bed, in my apartment, surrounded by the life I had rebuilt with my own 2 hands, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: complete peace. At last, after so many years of living for others, it was I who decided whom to love, how to love, and who deserved my time and my energy. And for the first time in a long time, that person included myself.